How to manifest your heart's desires. Let's get right into it. Manifestation. The reality of manifestation is it's not magic. It's not uh, wish things into existence. Manifestation, from my vantage point, is you becoming the kind of person that can attract valuable things or things that you find desirable. And what do I mean by that? Well, we've already seen in previous videos that when you focus on yourself, right? Imagine you're this little circle, right? When you focus on improving yourself, incrementing a version of you to the next iteration of you, you exert even more of a force on the field, the fabric of reality. Of course, reality is going to push back, but you have a force that you exert on reality. The pushback could be dollar value. It could be that you're happier, more at peace, more fit. Reality will give you a reward for exerting effort. And there are many different outcomes and many different applications for this principle that I'm implying here. It's a macro principle. It's stuff you see in physics, right? Around relativity. Relativity. And so, why is this important for manifestation? Because when demystifying manifestation, just take it that you are a new individual with your version, and you are exerting a field on the fabric of reality. You are bending space, time, whatever domain you are focused on, right? And because you're bending things, the desired outcome exists in a certain plane, and because you are bending that plane, when it intersects at a particular time, it will begin to enter into your orbit, right? Things enter and exit our orbits all the time, right? But when we have sufficient influence on reality, when we have a certain gravity about us in reality, then we are able to manifest. This thing didn't pop out of thin air. This thing has always existed. It was just out of the field that we are exerting, and therefore we could never see it in our vicinity. But when we focus on becoming a better version of ourselves, when we expand the density of our identity, then reality shifts so that things in the vicinity that apply to the plane of which we are exerting in reality, because reality has multiple dimensions of it, reality has slices of particular domains, right? When we bend reality, right, we can begin to attract those kinds of things we want to manifest. And a very simple example is a very detrimental example of regression is if you ruin your identity, you can start to attract things like addiction, diseases that you shouldn't have fought with, you shouldn't have had issues with. Um, but because of the addiction, you start attracting all of these new complications that you should never have gone through, right? So this is an example of a detrimental, a destructive identity, an identity, not expansion or progression, but an identity contraction or regression. And so manifestation truly works like this, in my opinion. This is why people, hear me out. This is why people manifest a Lamborghini, and they do so, they picture it, they visualize it, they say, I have this thing, and they go to their vision board and say, 5 years from now, I will get a Lamborghini in my mansion, and it's supposed to just magically, what a load of baloney. 5 years will go by, and they won't get anywhere close. Now, the person who is saying, oh, I just need to upgrade my identity, right? My current identity cannot sustain the, the gravitational force on reality to pull that item into my vicinity. So I need to become the kind of person that can exert that pressure. Now that is difficult. Now that requires real work, right? And honestly, 5 years from now, right? 5 years from now, that vehicle may be here, right? This might be 5 years, and it might be getting closer to enter into their orbit. And hopefully, when it enters into their orbit, they are the kind of person that can attract it, right? So the problem is not the problem is can be you're not the kind of person you ought to be, and then the Lambo or the Ferrari or the Mercedes, right, crosses your path at a time when you are not best suited to attract it. The other is true, whereas where you're the person and it is just yet to enter into your vicinity. And we've talked about this in previous videos, right? That this idea that even if you become the person that can attract this, you must be patient because you have to have the time to exert your force on reality and then have reality push back. And hopefully, reality pushes back, it pushes back in a way that can allow you to have this entity in your vicinity. So this is how manifestation works relatively. Okay? It's not an exact science, but it is more realistic than just waiting for something to happen while you don't improve. You must improve and continue to work on yourself year by year. And at some point, the things that needs to find you because of the person you're becoming will find you, right? And um, you will know you're the person you're becoming because first of all reality will immediately a mirror your reality will begin to shift. People will tell you there's something about you. What happened to you? Your identity is different. Uh, you've been working hard lately. We can see you're improving yourself, right? Reality will tell you this, whether through voices, whether through results, right? Your financial prowess might increase, right? Your knowledge might increase. You might be happier, right? And so the name of the game is to bend reality so that things that you desire can enter into your vicinity. That is ownership, is when things are in your orbit. And it's patience. Don't play anyone else's game. Don't look at somebody else who is doing wonders and maybe their results came earlier and you begin to have doubt. And you begin to doubt your own personal journey and then you get distracted. So the first thing that will happen is remember, this is fear, this is faith, this is flight, and this is fight. So instead of going in the right direction, you look at somebody else who has already reached the dimension they needed to be to attract this, and maybe they the element is already in their vicinity or very close, and you can see their visible progress. And this makes you feel like I'm not doing anything. Am I not seeing any results? This will amplify your fear and will actually move you in a regressive state. That's how you get away from manifestation. You will be manifesting whatever it is you desire. I think, and in previous videos, I've talked about don't focus on these materialistic things because that's why, right? You see the person with the Lambo, and then you get distracted from your path because you're not making as much as they are, and you don't have the cars that they have parked, right? Focus on your journey. Maybe maybe you don't get any of this stuff, and at your current level of identity, the vantage point is too limited for you to see why this is useless to you. The amount of impact, the kind of impact you are meant to have transcends all of these materialistic things, right? So it may be instead of being rich in material items, you may be rich in relationship with connections and resources, which could help with some of these other things. But these things can be distracting in moving you to that direction. So I hope you will take that to heart. I hope this has been the clearest video I've made so far. I was looking through some of the videos and I've like some of these are not as clear as I'd like them to be. So I'm hoping this is going to help someone I know some of us are manifesting. We're thinking about that. We're hearing all kinds of ideas. And I will say it very clearly. This isn't magic. This isn't some spiritual idea. It is a spiritual principle, but it's very simple that anyone can do it, even a child, right? When you look at the world around you, as long as you are a self-thinking individual, the reality you have around you is a response to who you are on the inside. And I know this because when you reconfigure your identity, the world will respond to you. The wonderful, stable connections you have can degrade because of your identity shifts, right? So the world around you is very sensitive to fluctuations in who you are. So be mindful of your identity expansion. Be mindful. I, Someone may, a very good example that comes to mind right now. Someone may say, "But what if you're a kid in a rich man's house, right? And your identity didn't create your reality. You were just found, right, in that reality." Well, analyze this differently. Think about the scenario where the kid starts doing, misbehaving, and doing the exact, all of the things that their parents or their guardians doesn't want from them. Then reality will respond. They get punished. The connection, the pure connection they have with their family will be distorted, will be disrupted, right? This will have definite impacts on them. They may become outcast, right? They may be left out of the will because they went on a weird path, right? That was very destructive, right? No one wants to feed destruction. They want to feed progression. And if the identity expansion of the individual is at odds um, with the vision that someone has for them, well, that individual needs to make sure that even if they don't want to follow the path of their parents or guardians, that this is not a regressive and identity direction, right? They want to make sure that they are self-assured, right, and that they're confident in the direction that this is who really they're supposed to be, right? And that's tough because identity is expansive, and identity should really rely on the environment for input, right? Because we're going to be living in a shared reality. You better believe that there are repercussions for going down a path that's destructive. Because there's a shared reality, everyone should have an input on everyone's identity, right? And understanding those boundaries, right? A parent shouldn't force their child to be a doctor when their identity inside the child believes fully and is confident that they are meant for something different, right? And likewise, parents who are a doctor is an interesting example, right? We need doctors. So if anybody has the heart and definitely the resilience and the identity expansion to go through um, such rigorous, like it's a calling. That's what I've learned, right? And if you have it can be capitalistic. It's got to come from who you want to be, not the glamour and the idea. It's going through those tough scenarios, and then the reality will reward you for putting yourself through all of those identity iterations, right? From student to practitioner, all of that. So I hope this has been helpful to someone. My goal with this is to just provide value. Okay, that's the pure goal. It's not. It's adding value to my life, right? That's why I believe it'll be valuable to someone to be able to think about their world this way and how they want to have an impact, right? So with all of that said, I will see you in the next video.